So we are a nonprofit industry association. We were formed by the merger of the New York Tech Meetup, the largest meetup in the world, and the first meetup under the meetup.com umbrella, and NYTECH, New York Technology Council. And I won't read our whole mission here, but we're here to help the New York Tech ecosystem, and we have over 16,000 members. And we focus on education, such as internet, community building, workforce development, and advocacy. I mentioned this topic is one we had advocated on. We put on dozens of events a year, including the New York Tech Meetup, and we run a CEO roundtable that meets 10 times a year. And we are a membership and sponsorship funded organization. You can view those when you know. This is a quick list of our sponsors, and there are a number of them. We've been growing in size over the years. The Tech Meetup was founded 13 years ago at the New York Technology Council, 9 years ago. I'm sorry, 8 years ago. Some more sponsors. Four is our highest level sponsor. A lot of familiar names here. We thank them all. Witham is up here, and a supporting sponsor. They have been.
It's about time you guys were all over there. So I was wondering.
Is that the right one? Sometimes we are behind, and the sponsor will point out that they have told us they've got a new logo, and we just haven't done anything with that knowledge. I want to thank our host tonight, Nice to see you and fine. They have hosted a number of events last year. On to the main show now. We're here to talk. I'm sorry. Ahead of myself. I'm going to mention two upcoming events.
Anything for a plug, Eric.
Right. 2 nights from now on Wednesday, we've got an event on negotiating an M&A exit. The process in key deal terms when selling or buying a privately held company. This is, tonight is part of our Tour de Finance track. The finance track, that one is part of our legal track. Obviously, the boundaries often blur. And then next July 11th, we have the July New York Tech Meetup. That'll be at Scribble Hall.
That's huge, right? I mean, you get a lot.
Yeah, hundreds of people will be there, and there's demos and an after party, and you're all invited. And this is what you're here for tonight, reducing your payroll tax costs. And we've got a great panel, all from Witham. And let me turn it over to Jim Bork, who has worked with us for years and is a great sponsor, and we've been on many of our panels. Glad to have you here again.
All right, thanks, Eric. All right, so I'm Jim Bork. I'm a partner with Witham, Smith & Brown, and I've been with Witham for 30 years. Sit on the executive committee of the firm. Right now, I oversee Witham. We're branded as Audit Tax. I have to look every time. It's Audit Tax Advisory. So I'm managing director for advisory services at Witham. We put the whole firm in 3 buckets, and in that bucket, we do everything from cybersecurity consulting to SOC 1, SOC 2, transactional advisory services, new SOC for cyber type service, and a whole suite of other types of things, and all the non-traditional stuff the firm does, other than audit and tax. That's our world. But tonight, I had suggested to Eric, I put together this tour de finance with my counterparts at other firms, Eisenramper, Cohn Resnick here in the city, and we get together with Eric and we talk about topics that would be interesting, and no matter what they may be, accounting, tax, or advisory. And just from our experience, one of the hottest things going right now is this R&D credit. You may hear commercials on the radio about it. You may know a little bit about the R&D, but the whole R&D credit process changed last year. And we keep getting the message out. All of our clients looking at it. In the past, no one would take, very few small tech companies would end up taking the R&D credit because they all had losses. They thought, why go through the expense of doing an R&D credit, but I'm not going to benefit from it. So then the rules changed. The rules allowed for a payroll tax, a deduction against payroll taxes, against the employer's share of Social Security. And our experts that I brought with us tonight are in our tax department. One guy, Kevin, is 110% dedicated to this R&D space. So he'll talk tonight about the R&D credit, focus on the payroll tax credit, but at the same time, tell you a little bit about the R&D credit in full, so you really have an understanding of it. And Gia works in our tax department, handles a lot of our tech companies, and I said there's not one client that should not be looking at this. We would be doing a disservice to our tech clients. And I say tech, but there's so many other industries which you'll hear that this credit applies to. It's not necessarily just tech, but that's all I do is tech. All my clients are tech companies, so that's why it resonates with literally every single one of my clients. Before I introduce these two guys, which will be doing most of the speaking, I just want to find out, what do you guys know about the R&D credit? Have you taken an R&D credit? Have you looked at the R&D credit? So tell me, you're here for a reason. It obviously resonates, it's R&D credit. So tell me.
I just have a cursory understanding of R&D tax credit. I mean, the business that we're in, you're a grant company, we work with all different types of tax incentives as well. R&D tax credit is something that we don't do, but it'd be nice to know a little bit more about it. But, it links in with both state and federal stuff. So,
many states, the calculation for the R&D takes place, they piggyback off of that credit. Yeah, absolutely. Right. Excellent. Anyone else?
We told our accountant about it, and then...
Okay, first of all, that's sick, okay? If you have to tell your accountant about the R&D credit, bring it to their attention, that's terrible. They should be bringing it to your attention. But go ahead.
That's why I'm here.
All right.
Where
are you from? Just a little bit.
I work for a company called L&R. We're a small design, research, and technology firm based in Brooklyn.
Okay.
Falling right into that niche of what we're going to talk about today.
Happy to how long has your company been around?
6 years.
6 years. Okay. Good. That's important too, and he'll tell you why. That's all about revenue and formation and all of that as well.
Jody Chestnut from Roseburg and Chestnut. We're a small accounting firm in the city, and about 35% of our practice is startups. And while the
guys got on top of this.
So rather than spend a ton of time trying to read stuff that may not explain it, I thought this was the right spot to come.
Excellent, man. Yeah, did you go through the R&D credit for any of your clients this past year, or are you like, you always go back in the med,
We started to, but the problem is it wasn't worth the efforts. Even on some that were able to get something from it, it wasn't worth the amount of money they were going to spend and the risk associated with possibly not doing it properly.
And we'll talk about that. Right.
And that's the whole thing, nail it. You got to do it the right way. It's a high, some of the big credits, a high audit area, right? The IRS. Very often there were non-CPA firms doing this work. There were shops down in Texas, places like that will actually do the credit. They get a percentage of the credit as a fee, and we try to stay away from that. We're like, okay, we're going to do the credits, pay us on an hourly basis, and that's how we're going to go through the process.
We're not even allowed to be contingent.
No, but these other firms out there, and they're audited all the time.
Non-CPA firms can. We can do that.
They make life very challenging for folks that do it the right way, so to speak.
I spoke to a few firms that were doing the credits, and they disappeared.
I know.
I know. I had one guy we were about to send in to do the whole analysis. He disappeared.
Yeah, that's terrible.
Jeff, well, I work with Jody. I run the tax side, so this is kind of falling on me to figure it all out.
Yeah, you guys got to be on it. Definitely something you can do it internally. No doubt, absolutely.
Hi, I'm Sang. I'm here from a small startup in fintech space. Just heard about the event, so here for the educational purpose.
There you go. So you're spending money on either subcontracting, payroll, developing code, writing code. Yeah, so you got to be all of this.
You might go back tomorrow and find some cash.
That's right. Think about that. If I'm an equity investor in a tech startup and they're not taking advantage of this, I have a problem with that because my cash is going out the door to pay payroll taxes when in fact it could have been credited as a result of the dollars I'm spending for development.
I'm Adrian. Just looking at considering starting a startup or other technology firm in healthcare or financial services. So just kind of curious to see what kind of benefits.
Excellent. Yeah, this is one that's out there. Like I said, you're perfectly positioned for it to start spending those dollars.
I'm Catherine. I work at a law firm, and our clients are basically startup tech companies. We don't necessarily specialize in tax, but just figured I was be on top of it where I can.
Perfect, because you can always bring value to your clients by saying exactly this, right? I went to this seminar, why don't you guys talk to, or if you pair with any accounting firms or anything, you can say, you guys know about this, just want to let you know about it. So that's all you need to do at that point, right? And you brought value to your clients, so that's great.
So now these three guys, two guys and a girl, are with us, so I'll just let them introduce themselves.
I didn't look at girl.
Maybe it looks like you guys.
I'm sorry, there you go, all right, she's right, that's right. Go ahead, Tyler, you go first, man, I'll start with Sam.
My name is Tyler. I'm with him, tax supervisor, and out of part-time in New York, part-time in Morristown, or looking up, I guess now, with for a couple years now. Specifically focused in tech and startup.
Hi, I'm Sam Monchik. I'm also a tax supervisor. I'm a girl.
I'll never let that one down, sure.
I'm also primarily in the tech niche. I work with Kevin closely. I do a lot of R&D. Before I was with them, I also worked on a lot of R&D projects. So yeah, but this whole new small R&D credit is even new to me too, but it's really exciting, and I think at this point now, I've done at least like 6 of them already for our clients. That's like I think we have like 12 that are going on right now.
Good for you.
Yeah.
Joe?
So I'm a partner at the firm in the advisory practice, so I have a few different practices. One focuses on cloud software and technology, and I bring in Kevin and Gia into those companies when we're helping them plan out technology, whether they're customizing or putting in commercial software. There could be a component, which Kevin will talk to about R&D tax credit. Then I have a team that focuses on cyber crime. Everything on the problem of cyber crime, okay, other than to be legal and litigated, okay? And then we have a niche practice on auto dealerships on the advisory side.
Okay, so now while you're here, the R&D, you guys will really run with the rest of the show. I'm going to be asking lots of questions too, and challenging points too. So, yeah, take it away. Gia, Kevin, and talk about your background there.
Absolutely,
okay.
absolutely. So as Jim said, I'm Gia Rosemarin, a tax partner specializing in the tech niche. And we probably have about 600 clients in tech clients
yeah, a little over 600 here in the city.
Yeah, that we kind of work with. And it's nice because we take them from the startup phase where they're needing seed money and so forth, all the way through, whether it's VC, private equity, IPOs, things like that. So we kind of follow our clients all the way through. This credit came out, it was new law last year, we're going to talk more about it. And it's exciting for us because, as Jim said, a lot of startups, pre-revenue, all they really have are R&D expenses. That's all they're incurring right now, right?
And we'll tell you what those are, what
yes.
R&D expenses
yes.
are as well.
Because sometimes, I don't know if for book purposes, GAAP and things like that, if you guys are doing, audited financials and things like that, there are differences for the tax world what the IRS treats as R&D expenses as well. But this is exciting for us because we like bringing value to our clients. This is real money, right? As Jim said, even though you're doing all these R&D expenses, maybe the cost benefit wasn't there to necessarily say, hey, it's worth me taking a credit on my tax return. I'm just building up my R&D credit. Maybe if I'm being sold or something, maybe my buyer can monetize it, but I may not be able to monetize it. You can carry it forward, by the way, for 20 years. So there is a carry forward period on it, and if you hope to, the regular credit, if you hope to ever use it, I mean, it's a nice long carry forward period. But the fact that now you can offset it, and we'll talk about specifics, and it's not for everyone that you can use it, but for small startup companies, we're seeing a lot of our tech companies qualify for this, and you can offset it against your payroll taxes, which everybody here is paying, right? I mean, payroll is payroll. So it's pretty exciting for us. We like talking to our clients about this. We like saying you can monetize it, and we've been working with a lot of our clients this year on it. So.
And we have all the content, by the way. I was just looking up. There's a URL. So we have a PowerPoint, and we have some other materials that talk specifically about the R&D credit. But it's at witham.box.com /V as in Victor /NYTECH. So it's witham.box.com.
Why don't you write it down, I'll put it up on the screen.
Excellent, excellent. Great. /V /New York Tech. I'll write it down. Excellent. So you'll have access to all that content after this meeting. So you don't have to get crazy about writing a lot of stuff.
taking the notes and stuff, and I'll turn it over to you for intro.
The content's great. We'll be alluding to it during the next hour or so. Hi folks, I'm Kevin McNulty. I came across with him last summer after spending about 15 years or so in Big Four, mostly Big Four. So I've been doing R&D tax credits for almost 20 years now, primarily. You know, we touched upon so many great things already. Your comments, our comments. So we will revisit them and so forth. But it is a very exciting time. I know the focus is on, you know, this small business credit, which is very cool because of the monetization. The government really got it right, you know, for this filing period. So it is front of mind right now. They're still completing some of the forms, believe it or not. They're tweaking them right now. The government. It's interesting. We're right on the cusp of this, which is wonderful news. And it's all about monetizing the R&D credit, brings so many folks back into play. I'll touch upon why it's not leading edge technology, why pretty much every Tom, Dick, and Harry out there that has techies on staff can have some R&D type of activity taking place. So wonderful things we'll touch upon. I know we'll do it via Q&A. Want to keep this open. There's content here I'll be looking down just to make sure I hit some certain points. You can look at it later on. But Jim will keep us focused here and make sure we hit all of our points. And please, anything you want us to elaborate on as we speak, or any questions, feel free to jump right in.
Excellent. All right, so I would roll with it, high level on the, you know, so what's the change, right? Just R&D credit's been around for a long time. Been around for a long time.
Before I was born.
So why is it so hot right now? So why is it so hot right now? What's the big difference between the existing R&D credit and the current credit?
Yeah, and as Jim said, you know, for those of you who follow the tax law, you know, we see, will they enact it? And then we call it the permanent R&D credit, right? Because they say, oh, we don't know, and they never heard of the permanent since, what, the 70s? But yeah, why this year? So what they came out with the law for 2016 tax returns, okay, so by the way, if you've already filed your tax returns, or if you have clients that have already filed their tax returns, it's fine to go back and amend. So all is not lost, it's not a big deal. They came out with a qualified small business taxpayer, and we'll talk about what that means, can claim a credit up to $250,000 against their payroll tax, okay? Qualified small business taxpayer, what does that mean to you guys? It means revenue of less than $5 million a year since 2012. Okay, so for 12, 13, 14, and 15, you need to have $5 million or less each year. If you had revenue in 2011, and I know you were talking about 6 years, so hopefully you didn't have revenue that first year, because that could kick you out of this credit. So from 2012 to 2015, now including 2016, you have revenue of under $5 million a year, per year. That's the first prong to see if you qualify for this credit. The second thing that we do, so we'll talk to our clients. Once they're under the $5 million, we'll say, okay, let's talk about your R&D expenses. You know, what does that mean for you guys? I would say ballpark, high level, to take back to your clients, for every $1 million of qualifying R&D, again, we'll talk about that, you probably get about 6 to 10 cents on the dollar. So if you have $1 million, you'll probably get about $60,000 to $100,000 worth of credit.
Yeah, I always use that 10%. I always use that 10% back. Whenever I'm winging it, and the largest bucket, which these guys will talk about, tends to be payroll. Because that's who's doing all the work. So your labor cost is, in my opinion, the single largest bucket that goes into computing the R&D credit.
Right.
And I usually wing that. I look at that, I look at supplies, look at things like that, and I say, okay, your credit's going to be about 10% of that. That's how I generally, you know, totally wing it before I bring the experts in to figure out exactly what it is.
And that's a really good ballpark, right? Because a lot of times you want to have that, the first conversation you want to bring to your clients or bring to yourself is, you know, where are we? What are our R&D expenses? What are we talking about here? What would the benefit really be to me? So that's a good ballpark. And then you say, okay, well, let's say I have a $100,000 credit. What are my payroll taxes, right? Now remember, it's payroll taxes, it's only the FICA.
Employer share.
Right? So what is it, 6.2%?
6.2% of all salaries, not just R&D related, all salaries.
Correct.
Which is important.
Right, so not just, exactly, all of your salaries count towards that. But some people say, oh my gosh, you know, on $1 million, I'm paying the federal, I'm paying the state, no. Because the federal and the state, that's really just withholding, right? That's really the employee's share. So it's your share of the FICA. So you have to sort of look at, well, what is that, right? Because we've had some companies that have $10 million of R&D expenses, we're like, oh my God, this is so amazing. And then they don't have, you know, the payroll sort of isn't, the credit just sort of doesn't kind of work out. So that, you want to look at that as well, right? You want to be able to say, I'm going to offset how much of my payroll taxes, and you want the cost-benefit relationship to work out.
And that's one aspect of it, right? The payroll taxes. We tend to focus on that because the first time we could take a credit for companies that are maybe not yet realizing a profit. But even though you don't have a profit, even though you don't have payroll taxes, you can still take the credit. In fact, we go in and do a lot of due diligence on tech companies selling and helping companies buy tech companies. I always look for that credit. I look to see, do they compute the credit? Is that like the golden nugget that's going to be there to help us get through this deal? Or is there cash that they left on the table that can be valuable to us? So it's there whether or not you have payroll. If you have payroll, it's a much quicker credit to realize.
Yep, that's exactly right. And a few points just to kind of elaborate on, a little more backstory too. It is brand new. Gia mentioned permanency of the R&D credit. That was a big thing a couple of years ago, believe it or not, because it was always part of the extenders package that Congress held up going into the holidays. So it's wonderful for guys like me, my career on this, practitioners, and also from a tax planning perspective. So that's a couple of years ago. So that's now part of the law. So that's another reason more people are coming back. And just by way of background, the R&D itself, which is still in play, the regular or traditional credit is still in play and can be used in concert with the small business, believe it or not. So while we'll focus on the small business today, the regular credit, the rules are pretty much the same. It's been around since the early 1980s. The targeting, which we'll talk about, is the same. The activities are the same. But the fact that we're now into the small business realm, the 5 million threshold, 5 years or less, kind of brings right outside here hundreds and hundreds of taxpayers back into the R&D game now, which is wonderful news.
So you guys touched on a little bit about the expenses. Like, what kind of expenses go into computing the R&D credit?
Yep. R&D, it's a two-pronged approach. It's understanding what a company does that can be qualifiable. And then once that's determined, and in the tech space, it's going to be people time. Normally, it's three-pronged. It's going to be wages of the employees, W-2ers, that perform qualified activity. And basically, it really does come down to, hey, John and Mary worked on R&D for 6 months last year. We can end up taking 50% of their W-2 box ones as that QRE, that starting point, of which about 10 cents on the dollar. So it's going to be the wages of the employees, continuing on the people time, contract researchers, non-taxpayer folks who you may have hired to assist in the development effort, expertise, staff augmentation for a big project. You bring on some folks, programs, etc. We can include those as well. Same rules apply to those. By statute, though, you're allowed to include 65%. There's a haircut of a 35%.
Can software developers be in that quote too?
Absolutely. Yes, the software developers are those folks that usually default to R&Ders. Once you begin the field work, you get a listing of the head count, the organization charts. If you see 0 or low percentages against the software developers, that's one of the first questions you ask, because it does fall into the tech realm. And I'll get into qualified activity shortly.
Very, very, very important. It has to be in the United States. Okay, so if you have a software developer that's sitting in Nigeria, does not count, because it's just stimulate growth here in the United States. So the R&D has to be here. We get this question all the time, right? We have our back office sitting in India. Well, it's back up.
It's prevalent. Yes, I mean many companies, even small ones. No, that's a great point. We always go to the U.S. soil. Right? So if a company's paying for either W-2ers or 1099ers, as long as they're working here on U.S. soil. But very important. So that would be the people time, the wages and the contract research. Another big category, not really for the tech world, software development, is supplies. Supplies is a big category for manufacturers, big drug makers, a lot of the New Jersey, the Pfizers of the world. They'll have that big supply category. So honestly, for the tech world, where software development is the R&D, where we hang our hat, it's truly going to be people time, the wages of the employees and the contract researchers.
Now you say wages, so your taxes, other taxes don't count, it's just the wages?
Yeah, so let's talk about that.
Talk about benefits.
Yep. So it does come down to W-2 box 1. So taxable fringe, bonuses, stock comp, exercise stock options, oftentimes a big deal for those companies that are going public, have a great year. So a proportionate share of that is includable as well. So that W-2 box number, box 1 number is the holy grail when we're asking for the people time. And from a contract research perspective, invoice amounts are good enough as long as you understand what the folks did.
But it's not all employees, right? You're talking about employees doing specific work, right?
Oh, yes, so that's the other side of the coin. So that's the quantitative, the numbers behind the R&D. But the qualitative, who is doing the work and in what proportionate percentage of their time. And that's based on a series of tests. And okay, this is a segue into,
I just wanted to clarify for a second, right? So when you're doing the credit, it's based on the qualified research expenses, who's doing the research, right? And we'll get into that. But when you're offsetting your payroll taxes, it's your entire payroll. Because you're filing your Form 941s quarterly, that doesn't distinguish who's doing what, right? So you could have one person doing R&D that's going to offset. Does that sort of make sense? So I just wanted to, but the W-2 wages are that, and I don't know if you want to talk about the 80%.
What if you're on a PEO?
A PEO? You're stealing our thunder.
Yeah, we are on it.
Wow.
A ton of tech companies
Yeah, so we'll do it. Okay. So yeah, this came up. Yeah, this came up about a year ago because we have a lot of companies using a PEO. For you guys who in the room don't know what a PEO is, it's basically when you're outsourcing your payroll function and they're filing for you using their ID number.
You're leasing your employees from the base.
Yeah, you're a startup and you just don't want to have ADP come in and charge your fortune. So we have so many companies using PEO. So this came up a year ago. We immediately reached out to the IRS. We have somebody that works at the IRS, and we did find out that it is the taxpayer, which makes sense, right, incurring the R&D expenses that's going to be eligible for the credit. Okay, if you use a PEO, the PEO has to be certified. I don't know if you guys have seen any law on this. So we've actually reached out to TriNets and of the world and some very specific PEOs. There are 84 PEOs that have just gotten certified with the IRS. They're working on it. They have to be certified in order to take the credit. So I think the IRS got a little ahead of themselves, right? They put out this law, and then we were all excited about it. We were almost rushing people to not file extensions, which this year was April versus March. And then all of a sudden, wait, the form wasn't even ready on the tax return to even claim this credit. So we're like, sorry guys, you gotta, because we were all excited last fall about we're gonna do this, we're gonna get this credit for you Q2, and we had to put the brakes on because they're really catching up, and then the PEO issue, they're just slow to catch up. So they need to be certified. PEOs are getting certified. PEOs are aware of this. And it's a slow process. We're thinking that most of the PEOs will be certified by September 15th. I know returns are due October 15th this year, but we'd like to see them by September 30th, which is the third quarter for payroll taxes, so that companies can monetize this for Q4.
Yeah, this was the first quarter. The quarter that we're in right now, quarter ending June 30th, was technically the first quarter that someone could actually claim a credit against the employer's share of Social Security taxes. Because if you think about it, 2016 returns, you're filing those in the first quarter of 2017, you're memorializing your available credit offset, and the first quarterly payroll returns you can use them against happens to be in this quarter. But like these guys said, the forms weren't available, there was a lot of confusion in the marketplace. And I will tell you, the big PEOs here in New York that are in the tech space, TriNet being one of them, they've gone through that process. TriNet happens to be one of the largest that most of our tech clients use as a PEO.
So if you're a tech firm that use TriNet, for example, your accountant would figure out your R&D costs, and then you will tell TriNet that?
Yeah, because exactly. They claim it based upon the 2016 return, whatever type of return that is, corporate return, LLC return, whatever type of return it is, that's where the credit's computed, and because that's the basis. And then my guess is, if I'm like a TriNet, I'm going to give you a form to fill out. Okay, do you have available dollars to claim? Give me your ID number, all of this. Give me the credit dollars, so that the IRS can then verify that in the event that they're examined. That's how that would work.
And the way it's working now, as the government kind of settles the dust on this, is the R&D form is the Form 6765, the traditional form. There's a new form, the 8974. It's a one-pager, small business credit, we're calling it. The R&D credit is just transferred to that form, line 5, I think it is. And then that number is transferred to the quarterly 941 form, line 11, showing the R&D tax credit figure that will zero out any dollars for the 6.2%. So the process is fairly straightforward. But the PEO, excellent question, because these professional employer organizations were thrown a curveball just a few months ago, saying you had to become C PEOs. Just last week, 10 days ago, the IRS came out with a memo, as Gia alluded to, 84 of them were now certified. They're not telling us who it is yet, so we're reaching out via our clients right now. We have some yeses, some nos. Interestingly enough, trying that, haven't gotten an official yes yet.
Yeah, the reps are saying yes, but again, we need to see that, because they need to be able to ask our clients for that credit in that.
Yeah, because they are prohibited from filling out these forms now. So the guidance right now is, do not do the R&D tax credit because we, meaning the PEOs, cannot fill out these forms. It's interesting, somewhat being held hostage in that regard. And the quarter it is filed for, it is realized in the subsequent quarter. So in essence, we are there right now, right? In late June. So G is correct, and the assumption that this summer, late summer, most of them should probably be caught up, because we were in touch with some of our contacts. I was in touch with a field agent a couple weeks ago, and they're like, there's a lot of noise in the background about this. So the IRS is trying to kind of expedite it. So hopefully it'll be settled shortly for Q3, end of September, so we can get it on the books for fourth quarter.
Yeah, in that content, by the way, that Lincoln provided, we gave you the IRS Form 6765. We're giving you a fact sheet on a summary of what these guys are talking about, as well as a whole overview PowerPoint presentation on the whole process.
Just so it's clear, so if we filed a return like, say, April 15th, and the Q2 for payroll is June 30th, you can't file it on that form. You have to file it on the September 30th quarterly form, because that would be Q3. Correct?
If we file the return April 15th? Yeah, because then we're in the
You're already in Q2. So once
Right,
you're already in the quarter, you have to wait till the next quarter, even though it's like
Correct.
6 months.
Right, that's why we're hoping for September 15th. But they moved the deadline to October 15th, but it's not lost, right? So clients may just lose a quarter. It might be Q1 2018.
It's an important point.
Right, some people said, oh my gosh, if we don't get this done, do we lose it? Like, no, you don't lose it. So
it is there, and we verify it does roll forward to quarters, also into subsequent years. Next year, he said. So right now, nothing will be lost.
So you talked, Kevin, about 250,000. Is that the most of the credit I can take, or is it I can take 250 a year? What's the deal with the 250?
All right, the 250,000 is the current yearly limit for the new payroll, the small business one. You can do it up to 5 years in a row. So the 250,000 vis-a-vis your payroll tax offset, that's your max. Keep in mind, if you do exceed it, you can hold the other, either traditional regular method you can also file for, but you need taxable income, so you hold it in 20-year carry forward, or you can hold on to it until you keep rolling it forward, but you're still maxed for the small business payroll tax offset at $250 a year, but your credit can exceed it.
So you're saying that the credit is worth $1,250,000 over 5 years?
Yeah.
So it's pretty lucrative credit.
Oh yeah.
Very lucrative credit on a company that is spending a significant amount of money in payroll. Correct? Dedicated to R&D.
Exactly right.
All right, talk about for a second then, okay, payroll. I mean, I'm a CEO of a company. Does all my salary qualify for this credit? If I have people working on multiple projects, maybe one is at what I determine to be development, maybe one is at end of life, my employees do different things. What do I got to do to justify how much of that W-2 box 1 gets the credit?
And that's
the heart and soul.
That's the heart and soul, and that justifies our existence. It truly does. That's the storytelling. That's, and we'll get back to, I think we can answer your question now. It's based on a series of tests. The R&D tax credit is based on 4 tests. I'm not going to go into the technical law right now, but there are 4 tests right there, which what you truly do is you vet those tests vis-a-vis employees, projects, whatever it is that you're able to ascertain at a company. So in essence, it is a customized individual vetting process of applying those tests to the resources. So that's how you end up doing it. You know, the tests themselves, the most important two of them are the technical uncertainties faced during the ongoing effort. Not bleeding edge technology. It really doesn't have to be. And the process employed to address those challenges. That truly is the statement of the test from a high level. Now, I mean, there's a significant process that needs to be employed, hypothesizing, you know, trial and erroring and things like that. So what, you know, it's not the maintenance or the debugging of the software. That's the gray area of the non-R&D. But the other aspects of what many companies, bless you, do out there with their highly trained, well-paid staff, there is absolutely R&D taking place to some extent with each of them. It's embedded in it. I have not seen a company that has dedicated techie U.S. resources that doesn't do some R&D type activity.
Who's building software? Where's the cutoff?
All right, so traditionally you have a software development life cycle. The R&D tax credit, which is more expansive than from a tax sense. So what I mean by that is more encompassing of the time of the resources, the wages and the contract researchers. It can start as early as a team meeting in a room like this on a Monday morning. We're going to roll out, you know, version 2.0 in September. So here's the goal. Here's what we're up against. We're going to throw the 5 tech resources at it full time. So there is a development life cycle that takes place that would begin to tie into the tests, the 2 main tests, technical challenges and what was done to address those challenges. But to attempt to answer your question, and it's case-by-case basis, it truly is when you get to fruition of the thought process or the intended functionality, when you're almost at your end game of it being ready for release, absolutely. You know, that's, and I'm at the bell curve of the software development life cycle. So down here, intended functionality is a nice way of putting it. When the software has reached that, or as far as you're going to go with your resources, oftentimes it doesn't reach the intended functionality. That's where the R&D begins to dissipate and quickly die. Keep in mind though, oftentimes there would be another ramp up, whether it be a latter version. You know, Microsoft is famous for that, right? Pushing out the software and then fixing the bugs later on. They would come back to the technical uncertainty. So you have to continually understand the challenges faced during the process. But generally speaking, when the intended functionality is reached of a specific software product, the R&D ceases.
So help me out here. So I got a lot going on in my mind. So in GAP, we talk about economic feasibility, right? We look at a point of economic feasibility. We use terms on the audit teams that look at alpha stage, beta stage of the product. Now you mentioned, your analogy you gave, you said, okay, let's suppose we're creating version 2.0. That's telling me we already created version 1.0, right? Wouldn't I have more R&D on my 1.0 than my 2.0 or what? I mean, you tell me, the source code's already there, now I'm simply, I'm making it better. So help me out.
That's exactly right. That's exactly right. My analogy was 2.0, but the 1.0, you would think that the vast majority of resources for any given company, whether it be the Microsofts of the world or a small shop outside, you know, around the block, would be the 1.0, right? Their true product offering. That's where you think the series of heavy resources would be assigned to, and the technical challenges, the vast majority of them faced at that point in time. So yes, absolutely. Because you want to always bring it back to the significant efforts. I mean, that's how we vet clients during our field work. You don't have to understand everything. You want to understand the general process, but you want to talk about projects, development efforts, the big ones that had more resources on them, because they would be the 1.0s and not the 3.5s.
I have 2 questions for you. So if say we're building an app for a client, and we claim for the research phase of that app, or it sounds like for most of the development of that app too, we claim this tax. Can our clients then claim, since they've spent money on us? Okay,
excellent question. Excellent question. Now you're getting into something a little bit deeper, but generally speaking, it's the rights and risks. So who is in charge of paying those resources? And who gets the ultimate IP, let's call it. You don't have to have exclusive rights. So let's take it from both sides. Your client. if they were to get some type of rights to the development effort, then it's quite possible that they're entitled to the R&D credit because your company is doing it on behalf of them, following their rules and guidelines and specs, and being paid by them. But if this is a product offering that you are generating yourself and you have the rights to the development effort, then it would hold with you the R&D credit. But that's an excellent question because oftentimes when in doubt, take the other side of the coin. Can they claim it? I do it all the time, to find out, because you really shouldn't be both. There should be no double dipping on the resources. Okay. Right? So, but that's a good analogy.
And then my second question is, throughout the process, is it only engineers who are working on it? Is it an admin who's working on it, a product manager?
Another great question. I like to say, and not in a derogatory way, the worker bees. So once I get comfortable with the client, we talk about the worker bees, the true techies, the people doing the nuts and bolts. They would be the worker bees, but you can't claim from people time, say one level up and one level down, direct supervision or direct support thereof. Now keep in mind also many of your companies and the companies we associate with, they're flat organizations. The CEO, he's an old programmer, right? The CTO, so they get their hands dirty. Yeah. So it truly is understanding who does what. Yeah. But yes, you would mostly want to see technologists. You wouldn't want to see too many business folks, whether it be marketing folks. Marketing could potentially be a conduit between clients and the technologists with specs, right? Yeah. Sometimes you do have to investigate it, but it should be the hardcore techies, but there could be some business folks, C-level folks, which is good because they're higher paid and you can take a proportionate share of their salary.
Do graphic designers, does the IRS consider them as techie folks?
That's actually a good question. I have seen graphic designers challenged more often in the last 5 years in my prior life in the Big Four. Graphic designers are challenged, but keep in mind, the IRS is the last to learn about how fast our tech world is changing. So they need to be educated. They're inherently lazy when they're coming into audit, but I have seen them be challenged. Nonetheless, you educate them on truly what they have done, and if you're not being greedy in that regard, meaning if they're truly working on the technical challenges and not just, the more mundane, I call them, for lack of a technical term, then absolutely they should be included.
So they're solving the problem and the technical problem in some way, whether or not it's actually doing zeros and ones of code.
Correct. That's happening. They're part of that process. Absolutely.
And that's a great point, because when we go in, we look at the project as well as look at the people, what they did on the project. We look at it from two approaches. So you might have one person that put 20% of their time into that project, and that would count, right? But then the whole project has to count, right? So I guess we're talking about that 1.0 versus 2.0.
Project first, and then the people.
Yeah, we get that question a lot, right? Because as accountants, we do timesheets. So every day I can look back, what I did, what client I worked on, and I put a description. That doesn't necessarily happen, especially in startups, even huge companies. You don't keep track of your time by project. It's just not how we bill out by the hour, so it's important for us to do that. So, one of the things we're talking about now with our companies is, hey, here we are in 2017, we're halfway through. Start thinking about, because we know you're going to qualify for 17 as well. Start thinking about tracking these things, because now we're going in, right, and we're talking about 16. The company's like, oh, that was still last year, let me think about that, even though it's fresh, but it's still a year ago, right? Yeah. So we kind of talk to companies, start thinking about this, start thinking about how you can document. It makes it easier for us and more cost effective to come in.
Yep. So, no company is ready for an R&D study. Yeah. So G is right. One of the first things we ask for is time tracking, project tracking. It's gold for us because it serves as a guide, right? Because then you have to get into, okay, talk about the development efforts, who worked on it, which we do, because normally no company is ready for us. So that's an important aspect. It's one of the initial points on our information request when we're vetting clients and so forth. So, and another point Gia made about educating the client on a go-forward basis. That's right. You know, 8 months ago, oh my God, that's ancient history to developers, right? So it's very important to, you know, we just tell them a few things, jot down a few things, larger efforts, challenging efforts, failures. Failures are so great for R&D.
That's the whole thing about experimentation. You gotta win, you gotta fail. Iris likes to see failures as well. Oh, you went down the wrong road with this code. Wrong algorithms. You know, you need to make changes. They love to see that process. That's all right, exactly.
And it goes against human nature, because when you're trying to pull it out of technologists, we don't want to think about our failures. But failures, because oftentimes it's due to technical complexity. There's your R&D credit. So you know, we get good at it because it's what we do. But you know, it's part of the Q&A process.
You know, I'm thinking this is. I'm just sitting here. If I were listening to you guys, it seems like a really gray area. It just seems like you're telling me what qualifies. When you're talking about percentage of my payroll, I'm the CEO of the company. I'm doing lots of things. I'm working with the VCs, going after bank financing out there. I'm managing people. Oh, and I also do this. You know, what's the IRS going to rely upon when they're determining is the credit that I'm asking for appropriate or not? I mean, who's making that determination at the end of the day? I mean, if I come in and and the IRS is auditing this, is your word, their word? How does this work?
And to your point, the IRS usually comes in 2 years after the fact, right? So we're even talking about, you guys know this, we're talking about 17, our 16 tax returns haven't been filed. The IRS is probably auditing 13 now? 13, 14, I'm trying to think about it, you know what I'm saying. Think about where you were in 2014, right? So how could you ever support something on that return? So what we do, and what accountants do, and there are some boutique shops that do it as well, we put together a study, okay? What does that study mean? And Kevin will talk about it more. We do a quantitative analysis, so we'll, you know, very straightforward, like an Excel spreadsheet, we take the W-2 wages and allocations and conversations, and, you know, there it is, right? Those are your qualified expenses, supports the Form 6765, here it is, here's my credit. Well, that's great. What we also do is called the qualitative, right? And that is the support. Those are the interviews that we did with the personnel. That's the documentation of the job. It's the failures. It's why is this credit supportable? And I will be honest with you guys in the room, the R&D credit used to be a tier 1 issue, meaning, okay, meaning if you put the credit on your tax return, there's a good chance. Now, if you put a 20, you know, it depends what it was, but if you had a credit on your tax return, it was a pretty good shot, especially if you were a taxpayer using the credit against your taxable income. Maybe if you're a loss company and you put the credit on there and it was just increasing every year and you weren't using it, maybe not as much, maybe, because the IRS is coming in a lot now. But that was a red flag. It was, hi IRS, I'm taking this credit, look at it, because you're taking money back, so they're going to look at it. And they do have R&D specialists. So it's interesting because now that this credit is being monetized, there is a chance, if we have clients say to us, is this going to, you know, subject us to audit? And we say to them, it could. It very well could. But if we document this properly and do it right, it's certainly worth, you guys still, as Jim said, this could be $1.25 million. It is worth it to you guys. So we think that we're, you know, we have the expertise to properly document it, and you take that, you know, the deliverable that we give you, you put it in the drawer for the rainy day, or the day the IRS comes knocking 2 years later, you say, here it is, here's my study, here's why I can defend it, and this is why. So we feel pretty good about that.
And Jim hit it on the head. R&D, it is a gray area. It is subjective. Honestly, you have 3 different teams do an R&D study, you'll probably come up with 3 different answers. Generally different. But you know, the Witham way is, you know, you take a generally conservative approach to make sure you're educating the right folks, and those folks, we team with them. We're facilitators of finding out the R&D that a taxpayer is absolutely entitled to, and we find out the most efficient way to get it filed for with the minimum amount of documentation. That's all about the storytelling and bring that quantitative and qualitative together for any taxing authorities that may come around. So, but it is subjective. You think about it. It's 4 tests for all industries in the United States. It's set up to be subjective.
So, question for you. So, R&D, I've led R&D teams in many companies, but the definition of R&D could be construed as new product development, creating new products before they go to market. So I also know you guys do entertainment. So the question is, does a screenplay or book publishing or some of these are products, they're new products to market, would the efforts and development be considered R&D?
Technical-based R&D credit. The first test is technological in nature.
So if the screenplay is based on technology like ours, the Martian book,
sure,
would that apply?
Possibly. I would.
I'm just curious.
No. It's a good question, and these are the subjective nature conversations. So the first thing that draws me there, I focused on the third and fourth test, technical uncertainty, process experimentation. But this inquiry brings me back to the first and most basic test. The R&D credit is a technical-driven credit based on the hard sciences. So in that scenario, I would attempt to extract. Yes, because it's not an all or nothing sum game. There could be pieces of it. Pieces of it could be R&D. So that would require a deeper dive.
So Gia and Kevin, so it's not just about tech, right? What are some of the other industries that you see where the R&D credit comes into play?
We're seeing life sciences. I mean, and the reason we're seeing the life sciences is because so many of them are pre-revenue, because they don't have FDA approval yet, and all they're incurring is trial after trial after trial, incurring tons of costs. You know, they've been funded, hundreds of millions of dollars have been pumped into them. So they are perfect for this credit because the R&D is off the charts, they have no revenue, they qualify for it, and they can monetize it. That's where, other than
how about manufacturing companies on developing a new product?
Yeah, you know, manufacturing, the ones that I work on, I'm seeing more of the regular credit. Most of my manufacturing companies take the credit, they're taxpayers. They also take the domestic production deduction. I don't know if you guys are familiar with that.
Section 199, that is.
That's also a deduction for stimulating growth in the United States. So you cannot take the domestic production deduction if you don't have taxable income. That's why on a lot of the tech startups, we just don't touch it because it just wouldn't be applicable. And there is no carry forward. You have to have it in that year. But yeah, manufacturers, I'm seeing the regular R&D credit, at least the ones that I'm working on, they have a lot of revenue and so forth. I don't know what
and
you're
manufacturers,
saying.
you can jump to, and now I'm jumping to the second of the four tests, product or process development. Oftentimes, the big Midwest manufacturer, a huge factory out there, is redoing their whole assembly line. Process improvement. So it doesn't necessarily even have to be a product development. It could be the process, and these could be one-time bumps. You know, a $6 million investment last year. You know, because we were 20 years old, the equipment, right? So they redid it. And how do you get that? You just get back to the technical uncertainties faced to kind of take care of that process improvement. Just to kind of finish Jim's question there, product development from a manufacturing perspective. Understanding those things that it does develop that has the technical aspect, which once again could be a piece of it, the all or nothing sum game. So manufacturers, and it's true, it doesn't have to be just straight tech companies. I think most of our hats right now are in that realm, but you know, it's all about technology-based resources or development efforts. They could be one-offs. They could be one-offs that a company does every 5 years. I have a few of those companies. I revisit them every few years because they have a quick bump in something.
One of the things I did want to mention, I don't know what we've talked about yet, is the type of entity that you are. So a lot of tech startups are C corporations, and what we've been talking about right now is C corporations. But you know, there's a lot of companies starting to form as LLCs and other pass-through entities. So what would happen in that case is that entity is eligible for the credit, but it would pass through to the ultimate shareholders. So I just don't want you to think that, oh, if I'm not a C Corp and so forth, I can't take it. So it's pretty exciting because Tyler and I actually work on a partnership, and the partners are just beside themselves because we're passing through to them like a couple $100,000 worth of credit, and that's just found money, right? We're just like heroes to them. So, and again, this is something they're doing we don't feel this is an aggressive position at all. In fact, the opposite. We feel like we'd be doing them a disservice. And the other thing is we may go back and amend 2015 because we were new on this job. This is the first year we're doing it. So you guys should know that. So let me think about this. 2014 tax returns are still open. Yeah, 2014, 13 is probably just about closing. 14 is open by statute. So Kevin and I have also a couple clients, we're going back. Now the payroll credit is only starting on the 16 return, okay? But for 14 and 15, the credit itself can still, those tax returns are open. So you can go back, and that's what we're doing in one of the partnerships. And yeah, the partners have to amend their returns, but they don't care, they're amending.
So in other words, if I was losing money back in 14 and 15, and finally in 16 I took off, went out to iTunes, and now I'm selling my app, and I couldn't afford to get the credit done way back then, I can go back and amend those returns, and then carry that credit forward. Is that what I do?
You certainly can.
Yes, that would be the regular credit, because
Right.
Jay's right.
Regular credit.
The regular small business wasn't there. 20-year carry forward, you're making money
Okay, so
now.
it's 20 years is the limit, I can carry it forward.
Yep.
And now I'm making money, I can utilize that against my tax liability.
Yes.
Yeah.
The government eased up the rules on amending tax returns. Another bone they threw up practitioners a couple of years back is you couldn't go back, you have to do the regular method. There's two ways to do the R&D credit. There's the regular or traditional method that's been around since the inception in 1981, and there's the simplified method, the ASC. It's part B of the form. You are now allowed to go back and choose either one, which is nice. And whatever results in a larger credit, you run them concurrently as you do your field work, and whatever spits out the biggest result you can do. So you can do that on amended returns. There are some nuances to amended returns. Just a couple things, and I won't bore you with the technical details. You cannot go back and amend for a 280C election, which is the reduced credit. The reduced credit, generally speaking, is to avoid a double dip for the deduction of the same expenses. So there's an add back to taxable income. It can mess with your state returns. It doesn't normally prevent you from going after it. And going back to, while it's not a Tier 1 audit issue any longer, amending tax returns to R&D tax credit, supposedly there's an automatic desk audit in Utah, in Ogden, Utah. That's still the theory. So in other words, it will be looked at, and they can open up the books. So it's something to think about from a business perspective.
So if someone's been doing this 8, 9 years and they didn't use those, they didn't come up with the credits of those years, they just got no way to go back.
Well, the statute's closed on
Right.
13.
Yeah, right. So 3 years.
So it's 3 years of data filing, correct?
Correct.
There you go.
Correct.
So what's the process? I mean, how long does this take? Is it
Which
like so I'm a small
you
business,
sign up
right?
tomorrow, right?
Right.
Like, that's it. That's
Right.
a great question. This is exactly what we've been doing since the fall.
That's right.
And
That's been our lives for the last 6
Yeah,
months.
yeah.
I've been here almost a year, and that's pretty much what we've been focused on. Generally speaking, the Witham way right now is we're here to help. I'm running the R&D business, and to an extent I have carte blanche in how much I can help you guys vet R&D tax credit benefits. Meaning, I've done probably hundreds of calls, my team has been on them with me, where we quickly assess the R&D opportunity. I go through the tests I've been talking about, 15, 20 minutes.
You'll look at the tax returns, you'll ask some questions.
Oh, there's some pre-work done. We figure out where we
Yeah.
stand, whether it's the $5 million for the small benefit or the regular traditional. So we know there's a play, there's an R&D play. So we get on a call, and honestly, fairly quickly, if it's not a massive sized company, which I don't think we're really discussing, we could figure out if it's worthy of pursuit, so to speak. And worthy of pursuit could result in a few asks of my team to a taxpayer, a few data sets, where we then take a quick peek, put together a high and low estimate of potential benefit, as well as Witham fees for a true engagement, and then you have your return on investment. Honestly, this is what has been our life for the last 6 months.
Timeline-wise, I mean, we've done the calls, and now we're probably in the field, setting up the interviews as we talked about and things like that. It takes a couple months from start to finish.
Yeah.
It really does.
You're right, you gotta do it right because
So you're looking at 2 quarters probably, maybe 3.
Will we do some of these
quicker, yes.
quicker because we're approaching deadlines? you know, we've been doing this since the fall, we've hit all our clients, but all of a sudden we get new clients, right, that, and we don't wanna miss it. Could we do it quicker? We could, but in truth, it takes time, it takes
I would say it
effort.
depends on the size, to be honest. I think really what takes the longest is just the back and forth. Like we'll send them something to fill out, and it might take 2 weeks to come back.
Yeah.
And then because like I think that's honestly sometimes it takes longer. Just like it takes time for us to go through it, for them to put data together. Sometimes it's that like if we both sat down and said, okay, we're getting this done in a week, and that's all we focus on. Yes.
Yeah.
But
and then the engineers, right?
It's time.
We have to talk to the engineers, and engineers don't always want to talk to the accountants.
Right. And it could be like 2 weeks before they're available to have a conversation.
Right, right.
The
So
specific
that's
interaction
yeah.
between practitioners and clients
Yeah.
is very limited.
Yeah.
We do not take up more than a few hours of any individual's time in a client. You know, Sam's right, it's coordinating, it's administrative, it's review time on our end as well. So the specific interaction is relatively benign in terms of we don't need a dozen hours of anybody's time.
But that is a good point, because when we started talking to some of our clients about this, some of them were very protective for their engineers, right? Our engineers are in the field. They don't have time necessarily to sit and talk to the accountants about what they're doing and this and that. So we do have crafted interviews and things like that. We get as much as information as we can from maybe not the specific engineers, and then we ask them questions and we're done with them because we know how valuable their time is.
And just as we're approaching the major deadlines for a corporate filing, let's call it October now, there are ways to go about your business. You can't complete the quantitative, the numbers to file that 6765, which is the 2-pager that goes with your tax return. The quantitative can be completed prior to the qualitative, the storytelling, so to speak.
Right.
So there are ways to go about it, and once again, you know, I'm usually busy in the summertime because people are finally focusing on it. I want to file for some tighter deadlines, but it's all about communication.
So to Kevin's point, you can file the tax return without the qualitative study being done, because that is really for audit and a rainy day, and you have yours. Now, we want to do it because you're supposed to have a contemporaneous documentation, so like a transfer pricing study. But we can, and we're not going to not file a return or put it on there if TikTok only run on time, you know.
Right.
So that's kind of like the light side of it.
Great.
But that's a great question.
Yeah. Do you guys have any questions? I know you guys came in a little bit later into the meeting, so I know we covered some things, but yes.
Okay, so you know how like if you're modifying an NOL on a return, you don't have to amend the return because next year you can change your NOL. Like you don't really actually file an amend return. For R&D, like, can you put a placeholder on it? And do you have to go back and file an amended return, or or is it just you're basically just changing a number? So for example, you say you put a rough estimate. You say, okay, we're probably at even if you don't put $1, you put $100,000.
Are you saying to wing it when you do the return?
Yeah, so you're winging. I'm not saying we should do this. I'm just asking, like, if say you know you're gonna have a credit, so you put $100,000 on as a rough estimate. When you go back and then you do the study, are you allowed to do that? And then are you amending, or is it the same similar thing where you're kind of just like changing a carry forward number?
Well, if it's in losses and it's a carry forward created, then yes, you can bypass amending. You will just update the R&D number and thusly updating the NOL carry forward as well.
So basically, if you're going to file a return and you don't want the credit done, but you need to get it filed, you would say you should put a 280C election and just put $1 on so that you don't have to deal with necessarily amending for 2016.
Yes, that is called a protected election. That's a good point, Sam, because it's really not in our content here. Another administrative step that could save headaches later on, because in doing so, I mentioned before about the 280C election. In other words, you could just throw a placeholder on if you want to worry about the R&D next year. We could put $1. We should try a best estimate. But also that preserves that 280C election. You can check the box, and then you can file your tax return. And it's pretty much putting the IRS on notice that at a later date, we're going to file this with actual numbers. It's called a protective election.
And to Sam's point, we issue, and I don't know if you guys do this, sometimes we have to file the tax return in the audited financial statements if they haven't been done. So that actually does change the loss we would have reported on the return had the financials or the books been closed in time. As a firm, we take the position and we put disclosure that we're just adjusting our NOL carry forward. That's all. We're not going back and amending. We put the states on notice, put everyone on notice. So to Sam's point, we can also adjust the R&D credit. So we're comfortable doing that.
Okay, so we said that we keep this to about an hour. We're just about at that a little over that hour. So what's high level about the R&D credit? Even if I file my tax returns, I can go back and amend, right? So it's not too late, even though if I have an account that didn't have a clue, didn't take the credit, or maybe just didn't understand this process, or I didn't even have an account, right? I can still go back and amend to claim the credit.
Absolutely.
Yes.
But if I'm a new company.
Brand new.
Like,
New in
just thinking about doing
2016.
something new.
Yeah.
Seems to me, when you start, you want to be keeping nice records of what people
Yeah.
do.
Good time records.
Great
Project-based time records.
Invoices of any contractors you may have hired, put them in a manila folder.
Yeah.
That's right.
Give some thought to general projects, large development efforts. Those are the ones that usually contain the R&D activity.
Yeah, especially with a lot of people we talk to when they're doing like software development, like you're writing code, you're not really like they're not necessarily taking notes on like what they tried, they're kind of just like doing it. I mean, I think that they're kind of, they're kind of doing it, seeing it doesn't work, trying to do something, like those are the kind of situations where we'll talk to them, they're like, oh, we don't really have any documentation to support what we did, we just kind of did it. So those are the things where it's good for them to know, and these developers, like, just keep notes and a record, like what you tried and what didn't work, because I know a lot of times, especially with, like I said, software development, you're not really recording your different attempts. Like, you know, you're trying a product, you're creating an actual physical product, and you're going through a testing round, there's going to be documentation, which you're going to be recording like what was like the drop testing. I used to do R&D for industrial, like there's drop testing, there's a shaker test, there's all these different types of testing, like that stuff, it's easy to have documentation for improved because you review the results and you analyze them. So software tech, it's a little bit less, you know,
Like you said, you track defects and you debug the defects.
Right.
You just to keep those analyses and those records.
When Amazon buys you for $15 billion, you have your documentation.
That's right.
You never know. You never know, right?
That's right.
What's a minimum threshold of R&D spending that you would say makes sense to pursue this? Is there a question?
I'll tell you, we've been exposed to just about all our client base, and look, a quarterly payroll tax payment of $10,000 is gold. I mean, we had a call a few months ago. The company was actually going to stay open another year because of a credit of a similar size. I mean, it's a 3 or 4 man shop.
A very small. Most of our work is client work. We've spent one app we tried to make ourselves that was pretty limited, and like the time that our accountant would take to go through this process. At what point does it cancel out?
That's a really fair question. It's probably worth like a 15-20 minute call, like we said, to say here's what we think it is and here's what we would cost to do it, and then you think about it.
Yeah, so think about $100 grand and R&D. Let's suppose it was all labor. If you use their analogy, what's that? It's between $6,000 and $10,000 credit that you have the ability. I mean, just winging it. How much is it going to cost to do an R&D? You know, you got to weigh that against the $6,000 to $10,000. And are you still ahead of the game at the end of the day?
Right.
You know, it's easy to rack up $100,000 in payroll labor costs related to R&D. So you think about it, same figure is 10 grand for every 100 grand. It's a very lucrative credit. It really makes sense.
And it's not so time intensive on the accountant side that it's like anything below 100,000, it's just not. It's going to be $6,000 in the account.
No, we've done it below 100 grand. We've done them. I've done it with. I met these two kids in that you worked on for me out in Colorado. They're making millions now. They have one of the top 10 apps on iTunes and killing it. But prior to this year, prior to last, they weren't killing it at all. They were killing themselves on development and everything. So now we were able to, the analogy I gave before is that, okay, they were losing money, and now all of a sudden they got these big revenue. Now it's time to utilize the credit. So we're doing the regular R&D credit for these guys because they're benefiting more because they're paying taxes at their individual level because it's a pass-through entity.
But it sounds like it may not be worth doing it now, but if you keep the records now, you know, if it takes off, then you have the records. And you have the option
Or
of
you
doing
can
it.
do a multi-year study. They're cost effective. Right? 2-year study versus a 1-year. We propose that to some of our clients that are on the cusp. but it's well below 100,000 threshold. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, so more than happy to chat.
Thank you.
Okay. Well, thank you, Eric. I promise you I'll keep as close to 1 hour as we could.
Thank you, Eric.
Well, thank you. It was very lively and certainly informative. When we were pushing Congress to pass this, I didn't quite know the complexity that would be created, but it's a great opportunity.
Yeah, and to that point, we were down in Washington, D.C., and we visited with our senators for New York and New Jersey, actually, and really pushing this whole R&D thing. I mean, I was down there, we were in there with Menendez, we were in there with Booker, and you were handling New York.
Yep.
And really just trying to push the importance of what this means to the tech industry. Here
And this change takes that down to the startup.
It does.
Yes, it does.
Now it's getting the states to come up with equivalent credits. They're as lucrative as the federal credit is out there. And some states have done a really good job of that.
And that would be, the incentive for the states to do it would be to attract those jobs to those.
In that state.
Absolutely.
Oh, and yeah, good point on the states. Jim,
Yes.
you mentioned it twice. About 35 of the 50 states have additional double dip R&D benefits. And
Well, how about New York specifically? What are we doing in New York?
well, the New York doesn't have an R&D credit per se. It's a QETC credit, which for small companies
Still benefit.
It still benefits, absolutely.
Yeah.
And from the R&D perspective, about half of the states follow the federal rules, so it's a pretty cool double dip.
But New York is
I mean, are Connecticut or New Jersey more favorable, or?
Connecticut, yes, has a dual level credit. Pennsylvania does. Pennsylvania, I think you have to apply for it. So the tri-state area is pretty deep in it as well.
Yeah, same with New Jersey.
Yeah.
Jersey's got a great credit. It follows the federal. I was doing a few hours before.
And only one last point is that all this talk about Trump and what is he doing and are we going to have tax reform and so forth, we really believe this is here to stay, right? And he is about stimulating the economy and so forth. So, while we may not know about what tax reform is coming, we do think this is here to stay. So,
Well, so far it's here to stay.
yeah, absolutely. We
So
don't think this will be part of the reform.
There's the URL. You can hit it up in there. You're getting a copy of the entire presentation in PDF format, as well as the 67, 65, and then another tip sheet on high-level things to look for in the R&D credit.
And we'll stick around if you guys, Sam, Tyler, they have Joe, Jim, we all have,
There's probably a bit more food left, so.
Yeah, we'll be here if you guys
Yeah.
have specific questions.
Thank you all for coming today.
Thank you.
Appreciate
So
it.
much for having us. Thanks for the questions too, it's always nice to have participation.